I wanted to share my experiences using my sand tray and miniatures to reinforce the concepts in the We Thinkers curriculum. Using my sand tray allows me to extend the time I spend on each social thinking concept until I'm sure that students are ready to move on to the next concept. Most kids love sand trays. There are fancy, expensive sand trays out there, and they are typically blue on the inside to represent the sky and water. You can just use a large plastic container like this 32-quart one. You might be able to find a blue one, but if not, you can put a large blue piece of paper underneath it, blue fabric, or a blue tablecloth or shower curtain. And that can be nice because it can catch any sand that comes out of the tray and makes cleanup easier. Small sand trays can also be useful. I get these 10-inch ones at Dollar Tree. They're nice because they have a blue lid that you can put underneath to represent water. You don't want to get just any sand. Some of it is full of small rocks, really dusty, and not safe for children. You can sometimes find fairly decent sand at home improvement stores and garden centers, or you can get more expensive, softer sand, which kids tend to love the feel of. If you happen to have a play therapy training center locally, they may have some, or you can buy it through a website like playtherapysupply.com or the Sandtastic website. Though most kids love sand, some hate the feel of it. If that's the case, you can use dry rice, lentils, or beans instead. There are many options for miniatures. You can find quite a few at Dollar Tree. Some will be in the toy section and some will be in their fairy garden section. Some thrift stores sell bags of miniatures. Play Therapy Supply and Child Therapy Toys both have a wide selection of cheaper miniatures and the more expensive ones. US Toy also has miniatures, as do craft stores like Michaels. At Michaels, besides the row with miniatures, they often have holiday themed miniatures. And if you check right after a holiday, you can get them pretty cheap. Terra and Safari are two companies that make miniatures that you can buy on their websites or in other stores like Walmart, Target, and Kohl's. I usually start a session by reading and discussing part of a We Thinkers storybook. Then we do one of the activities from the curriculum, and then we get out the sand tray. Since in the first We Thinkers book, the kids build a block city, I have kids make a city in the sand tray. Dollar Tree sometimes has small police and fire stations that can be helpful. I've gotten small houses in the bins of cheap stuff at the front of Target stores, and it's also good to have trees and other nature items. The fairy garden section at Dollar Tree tends to have lots of little houses. In December, Dollar Tree and Michaels usually have little houses and other buildings, plus you can get other things to use in a city like streetlights and people. You can also get people at Dollar Tree and US Toy. Dollar Tree tends to have characters from movies, and US Toy has a package of police, a package of different types of workers, and packages of different types of sports figures. As kids put miniatures in the sand tray, I hold a thought bubble over their heads and say things like, Brian is thinking about trees. He's putting a tree in the city. Ava is thinking about adding a school to the city. Jack is thinking about a police station. He knows that cities have a police station. When we've only read the first book, if kids put something random in the sand tray that wouldn't be in a city, like a dinosaur, I let it go. That changes later after we've read the group plan book. With some groups, I have students take turns putting miniatures into the sand tray and say something like, It's Peyton's turn. Peyton, go find something to put in the city. For other groups, it's fine for all the students to be putting miniatures in the sand tray at once. Before we start, I usually tell kids that if someone wants to move a miniature that someone else has put in, they need to ask the person who originally put it in. You can have kids build a city the whole time, or you can have them build the city for a certain period of time and then give them the remainder of the time to play rather than build. After spending a lot of time building something in the sand tray, it can be hard for kids to clean up when the timer goes off. It usually helps if you offer to take a picture of what they built. When we're reading the second book, the group plan, I have students make a farm in the sand tray. It's easy to find miniature farm animals at places like Dollar Tree, or there is a Down on the Farm tube. The one pictured here that I have is an older version that they no longer make. The current one just has animals, I think. When students work on a farm in the sand tray, I still hold up the thought bubble and comment on what they're thinking about, but I also start making comments about following the group plan of making a farm. From this point on, when kids put something random in the sand tray that doesn't fit with the theme, I'll ask them what the group plan is and if they're following the group plan or following their own plan. Depending on where your students are, your goal may be just to build their awareness of the group plan and not actually get them to follow it. So after you ask them whether they're following the group plan or their own plan, you may go ahead and let them keep the random item in the tray. For other students, you might expect them to take the random item out of the tray. If it's really difficult for your students to follow the group plan and you find yourself having to do more prompting than you would like to, you can have them follow the group plan for a certain period of time and then allow them a small period of time at the end of the session to follow their own plan. Or you can have them work toward earning a follow your plan day where they get to do whatever they like in the sand tray. For the third book, Thinking with Your Eyes, I have kids make another planet in the sand tray. Safari has a space tube with astronauts and rockets and things, or US Toy has a bag of astronauts. I found miniature aliens here and there. Kids love to bury and find things in the sand, and to work on the Thinking with Your Eyes concept, you can bury things in the sand in advance and then look at a particular spot in the sand tray to help them know where to dig. Or kids can hide things for each other and then look at a particular spot in the sand tray to let other kids know where to dig. You can also bury something in advance and position an alien or astronaut in the tray looking at that particular spot to help students figure out where to dig for the item. For the fourth book, Body in the Group, I have kids create an underwater scene. There's an Adventure Force Sea Animals tub at Walmart. You can get the Terra Marina World at Kohl's, or US Toy has packets of fish and packets of sea animals. For the Body in the Group concept, it can also be helpful to give each student in the group a small sand tray and have one student create a scene with all the bodies in the group, another student create a scene with one body out of the group, and a third student create a scene with two bodies out of the group. For the fifth book, Whole Body Listening, I have students make a zoo. It's easy to find miniature wild animals at places like Dollar Tree, or Walmart has an Adventure Force Safari tub, Kohl's carries the Terra Wild Animal tub, and Safari has a wild animal tube. For the sixth book, Hidden Rules and Expected and Unexpected Behaviors, Safari has a pirate tube, and US Toy has a packet of pirates. Because kids love to bury and dig for things, it's also nice if you get little treasure chests from US Toy and get fake gems at Dollar Tree or Michael's. And you can tie Thinking with Your Eyes into this by burying things as I described earlier and positioning a pirate looking at the spot where something is buried, or just using your eyes to show a student in which part of the sand tray they should start digging. For the Smart Guest book, you can have students create a winter scene. In winter, Dollar Tree usually has wintry items in their fairy garden section. Dollar Tree also has items for a Christmas village that can be useful, and other stores like Michael's do too. Or you can bury items, give clues about what is buried, and have students make a smart guess. If they need to, they could poke their finger in the sand and feel the item without unburying it to help them make a smart guess. For the Flexible and Stuck Thinking book, Dollar Tree does sometimes have this ice cream cart. I also have a little ice cream truck. I'm not sure if I got it at a thrift store or elsewhere. It might be from Hot Wheels. At a certain time of year, Dollar Tree has these items in the fairy garden section if you want to have a general sweets theme that's not particular to ice cream. Or, since the kids in the book have that voyage to Mr. Roadrunner's house, the group plan could be setting up a road from one place to another in the sand tray with some obstacles in between. For book 9, Size of the Problem, the group plan can be to have kids set up the inside of a house in the sand tray. Dollar Tree has lots of plastic and wood furniture items. If you want to have them set up a birthday party in particular, in craft stores like Michael's in December, you can usually find miniature wrapped gifts, or play therapy supply companies typically carry them year round. Play therapy supply companies also usually have miniature balloons and miniature cakes. I got lucky one time at Dollar Tree and found a miniature Barbie cake. Dollar Tree also has dinosaurs in a variety of sizes who can create problems in the house. This is also a good opportunity to use small trays. If you have 3 students, you can have one of them represent a small problem in their tray, have one of them represent a medium problem in their tray, and have one of them represent a big problem in their tray. There are a couple options for the Sharing an Imagination book. You can get fire station items at Dollar Tree or elsewhere, or you can let students share their imaginations and decide together what to create. They may decide to create something that you don't really have miniatures for with the miniatures you have standing in for other things. So that's how I use my sand tray and miniatures to reinforce the concepts in the We Thinkers books. Most of my students love using the sand tray, but occasionally it doesn't work that well. When the sand tray doesn't work, I will instead use Lego-based therapy to extend the time I spend on each social thinking concept. I created a video on that recently if you would like to check it out.